Have you ever caught yourself in the middle of an explanation, desperately trying to justify your actions or decisions to someone else? That moment when you realize you're rambling, grasping for words to make them understand, to make them see things from your perspective. But what if I told you that in that very moment, you're not just explaining, you're eroding your own dignity, piece by piece? Let's pause for a second and really think about this. Why do we feel this burning need to explain ourselves? Is it because we're genuinely trying to help others understand? Or is it because deep down, we're seeking approval, validation? Or worse, are we trying to convince ourselves that we're right? Now, I want you to think back to a time when someone respected your decision without demanding an explanation. How did that feel? Liberating, wasn't it? It's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. A silent acknowledgement that you're capable, that your choices have merit without needing to be dissected and justified. But here's the kicker. Respect isn't just about how others treat us. It's about how we treat ourselves and in turn, how we treat others. When we stop the endless cycle of explanations, we're not being rude or dismissive. We're setting a standard. We're saying, I trust my judgment, and I respect yours too. Think about the last time you asked your child to do something. Did they immediately launch into a series of but why questions? And how did you respond? Did you find yourself trapped in an endless loop of explanations, feeling your authority slip away with each word? What? Instead, you simply said, I need you to do this because I'm asking you to, and I respect that you'll understand. This isn't about being authoritarian. It's about teaching respect for oneself and for others. It's about showing that sometimes trust supersedes the need for a detailed breakdown of every decision. Now, let's flip the script. Have you ever been on the receiving end of someone's lengthy explanation? Did you find yourself zoning out, checking your watch, or worse, forming judgments? The truth is, the more someone explains, the more room they leave for doubt. It's like they're saying, I don't think you'll understand unless I break this down into excruciating detail. But isn't that in itself a form of disrespect? Consider this. In our professional lives, how often do we undermine our own expertise by over-explaining? Picture a seasoned doctor spending 20 minutes justifying every aspect of a diagnosis to a patient. Wouldn't that sow seeds of doubt rather than confidence? The same goes for any field. Your expertise, your experience, they speak volumes. When you trust in that, when you present your decisions with quiet confidence, you invite others to trust you too. But let's be clear. This isn't about becoming tight-lipped or mysterious. It's about finding that sweet spot where you provide enough information to be clear, but not so much that you're essentially saying, I don't trust you to get it. Think about the great leaders in history, or even in your own life. The ones who commanded respect without demanding it. Did they achieve that by explaining every minute detail of their thought process? Or did they present their vision with clarity and conviction, trusting in their team's ability to understand and execute? Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but what about transparency? What about open communication? And you're right to ask that. There's a fine line between withholding necessary information and refraining from unnecessary explanation. The key lies in discernment. Ask yourself, is this explanation truly necessary? Will it add value, or am I just trying to fill the silence? Am I explaining because it's crucial for understanding, or because I'm uncomfortable with the weight of my own decision? Let's take this principle and apply it to our personal relationships. How many arguments have you been in where you found yourself repeating the same points over and over in slightly different ways, hoping that this time, finally, they'll get it? But what if instead you simply stated your position once, clearly and respectfully, and then stopped? Radical, isn't it? This approach forces both parties to really listen, to absorb, to consider. It creates space for reflection instead of reaction. And in that space, real understanding can bloom. But here's where it gets really interesting and challenging. This principle of stop explaining, show respect applies most crucially to how we treat ourselves. How often do we engage in internal dialogues, justifying our actions to ourselves. I deserve this piece of cake because I had a hard day. I can skip the gym today because I went yesterday. Sound familiar? What if we extended the same respect to ourselves that we're learning to extend to others? What if, instead of that internal justification, we simply made a decision and honored it? I am having this cake, period. I'm skipping the gym today, full stop. No explanation needed, not even to ourselves. This self-respect, this trust in our own judgment, becomes the foundation for how we interact with the world. When we stop explaining ourselves to ourselves, we naturally stop feeling the need to explain ourselves to others. We start moving through life with a quiet confidence that is far more powerful than any explanation could ever be. Now, let's talk about the workplace. How many meetings have you sat through where someone presented an idea and then spent the next 20 minutes defending it against imaginary criticism? What if instead ideas were presented succinctly with the underlying assumption that everyone in the room is capable of grasping the concept without an exhaustive breakdown? This approach not only saves time, but also fosters an environment of mutual respect and trust. It says, I value your intelligence and your time. It encourages others to present their ideas with the same confidence and brevity. Imagine the creativity and productivity that could flourish in such an environment. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't easy. We've been conditioned to explain, to justify, to lay out our reasoning for scrutiny. Shifting away from this habit takes conscious effort and, yes, courage. It requires us to stand firm in our convictions while remaining open to genuine questions and think about a time when you made a decision that others disagreed with. Did you find yourself launching into a detailed defense, trying to persuade everyone to your point of view? How did that work out? More often than not, such attempts at persuasion only entrench people further in their opposing views. What if, instead, you simply stated your decision, acknowledged that others might see it differently, and moved forward? This approach doesn't ignore dissent. It simply doesn't engage in fruitless attempts to change minds that aren't open to change. It respects the right of others to disagree while maintaining your right to lead. Now let's bring this into our homes, to our dinner tables. How many family discussions have devolved into circular arguments with each person trying to out-explain the other? What if the next time a contentious topic comes up, you simply stated your view once and then listened, really listened, without formulating your next argument, without waiting for your turn to speak? This kind of listening, deep, respectful listening, is perhaps the highest form of respect we can offer another person. It says, your thoughts matter to me. I may not agree, but I honor your right to your perspective. And here's the beautiful part. When we offer this kind of respect, more often than not, it's reciprocated. But what about those times when an explanation really is necessary? Because let's face it, there are such times. The key is to provide information, not justification. There's a subtle but crucial difference. Information empowers the other person to understand. Justification attempts to persuade or defend. When you find yourself needing to provide an explanation, try to state the facts clearly and concisely, then stop. Resist the urge to add because or so, that, or any other justifying phrase. Trust that the other person can connect the dots. And if they can't, if they need more information, they'll ask. And when they do, it'll be because they're genuinely interested, not because you've overwhelmed them with unsolicited justifications. This approach transforms our interactions from defensive monologues into genuine dialogues. It creates space for curiosity, for real exchange of ideas. It allows for the possibility that we might learn something new, that our perspective might shift or expand. Now, let's talk about parenting for a moment. As parents, we often fall into the trap of endless explanations. Eat your vegetables because they're good for you. They have vitamins that help you grow strong. They protect you from getting sick. On and on we go, while the vegetables get colder and our frustration grows. What if instead we simply said, these are your vegetables. I trust that you'll eat them. End of story. This approach respects the child's ability to make decisions, to learn through experience rather than lecture. It might not work immediately, Change rarely does. But over time, it fosters a sense of responsibility and self-motivation that no amount of explaining ever could. The same principle applies in education. Think back to your favorite teachers. Were they the ones who lectured endlessly, explaining every minute detail, or were they the ones who presented information clearly and then challenged you to think, to explore, to come to your own conclusions? True education isn't about filling minds with explanations. It's about igniting curiosity, fostering critical thinking. It's about respecting students' ability to grapple with complex ideas and arrive at their own understanding. When we stop explaining and start guiding, we empower learners to become thinkers, not just memorizers. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but in practice, won't people think I'm being abrupt or rude or dismissive? It's a valid concern. We've been conditioned to equate lengthy explanations with politeness, but here's the truth. Genuine respect, clear communication, and quiet confidence are never rude. They're refreshing. In a world of noise, of endless chatter and justification, the person who can communicate clearly and succinctly stands out. They command attention, not through volume or verbosity, but through the power of their presence. Think about it. When someone gives you a clear, concise answer and then stops talking, don't you lean in? Don't you pay more attention to what they've said? There's power and brevity in the space that silence creates. But let's be clear. This isn't about becoming monosyllabic or evasive. It's about being intentional with our words, about respecting others' time and intelligence. It's about valuing substance over volume. Now, I want you to imagine a world where this principle was widely adopted. Picture meetings that are short and productive, where ideas are exchanged efficiently and decisions are made confidently. Envision family discussions where each person's viewpoint is stated clearly and listened to respectfully. Think of a society where people are not constantly on the defensive, where trust and mutual respect are the norm rather than the exception. Sounds utopian, doesn't it? But here's the thing. It starts with us, right here, right now. It starts with a decision to trust in our own judgment, to respect others' ability to understand, to value clarity over verbosity. The next time you find yourself launching into an explanation, pause. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Am I informing or justifying? Am I respecting the other person's intelligence, their time, their ability to grasp concepts without an exhaustive breakdown? And the next time someone gives you a clear, concise answer without a lengthy explanation, notice your reaction. Do you feel respected? Do you find yourself paying more attention, or do you feel the need to probe, to demand more detail? The shift from explaining to respecting, it's not just about communication. It's about how we view ourselves and others. It's about trust, confidence, and mutual regard. It's about creating space for genuine understanding and growth. So I challenge you. In your next interaction, whether it's with a colleague, a family member, or even yourself, try it. Make your point clearly, concisely, and then stop. Trust in your words, in the other person's ability to understand, in the power of brevity. You might feel uncomfortable at first. That's okay. Growth often feels uncomfortable. But stick with it. Notice the changes in your interactions, in how others respond to you, in how you feel about yourself. Remember, every time you resist the urge to over-explain, you're saying, I respect you. I respect your intelligence, your time, your ability to understand. And more importantly, you're saying, I respect myself. I trust in my own judgment, in the validity of my thoughts and decisions. This isn't just about communication. It's about personal power. It's about moving through the world with confidence and grace. It's about fostering environments at home, at work, in our communities, where respect is the foundation of every interaction. Imagine the ripple effects of this shift. Picture the conflicts avoided, the time saved, the deeper connections formed when we stop explaining and start truly communicating. Envision the boost in self-confidence, the reduction in self-doubt, when we no longer feel the need to justify our every decision. This is more than a communication strategy. It's a life philosophy. It's about recognizing the inherent dignity in ourselves and others. It's about creating a culture of respect, one interaction at a time. So I urge you, start today, start now. In your very next conversation, practice this principle. Make your point, then stop. Listen more than you speak. Trust in the power of your words, in the intelligence of others, in the magic that happens when we create space for true understanding. You'll face resistance, both from others and from your own ingrained habits. That's okay. Change isn't always easy, but it's always possible. And the changes that matter most often start small. A single conversation, a single decision to trust in the power of respect over explanation. Remember, every time you choose respect over excessive explanation, you're not just changing a conversation, you're changing a dynamic. You're setting a new standard for how you expect to be treated and how you treat others. You're creating ripples that can transform your relationships, your work environment, your community. This isn't about becoming aloof or disconnected. On the contrary, it's about fostering deeper, more meaningful connections. When we stop filling the air with unnecessary words, we create space for genuine understanding, for real listening, for true connection. Think about the people in your life who you respect the most. Chances are they're not the ones who talk the most or explain themselves constantly. They're likely the ones who speak with clarity and conviction, who listen more than they talk, who trust in their own judgment and in your ability to understand. You can be that person. You are that person when you choose to be. It's not about changing who you are. It's about allowing the best version of yourself to shine through. It's about shedding the need for constant validation and stepping into your own power. As you move forward from this moment, I want you to carry this thought with you. Your worth is not measured by the volume of your explanations, but by the quality of your actions and the respect you show to yourself and others. Every time you feel the urge to launch into a lengthy explanation, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is necessary? Am I honoring myself and the other person by explaining, or would respect be better served by brevity? This doesn't mean never explaining anything ever again. There will be times when detailed explanations are necessary and valuable. The key is discernment, knowing when to elaborate and when to trust in the power of concise communication. As you practice this principle, you'll likely notice changes. You might find that people pay more attention when you speak. You might notice that your words carry more weight. You might feel a newfound sense of confidence, a quiet assurance that comes from trusting in yourself and respecting others. But perhaps most importantly, you'll be contributing to a culture of respect. In a world that often seems to thrive on conflict and misunderstanding, you'll be creating islands of mutual regard, of true communication, of genuine connection. This journey from endless explanation to respectful communication isn't always easy. There will be times when you slip back into old habits. That's okay. Be patient with yourself. Remember, this is a practice, not a perfection. Each time you catch yourself mid-explanation, celebrate. That awareness is the first step to change. Each time you successfully communicate your point without over-explaining, acknowledge that victory. You're not just changing a habit. You're reshaping your interactions with the world. As we wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with this thought. The world doesn't need more explanations. It needs more respect. It needs people who can communicate clearly, listen deeply, and trust in the inherent wisdom of themselves and others. You have the power to be that person. You have the ability to transform your interactions, your relationships, your environment through the simple yet profound act of choosing respect over explanation. So go forth. Speak your truth clearly and concisely. Listen more than you speak. Trust in your own judgment and in others' ability to understand. Create space for real communication, for genuine connection. Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to show respect, to foster understanding, to create positive change. How will you use your next interaction? Will you fall back on the habit of over-explanation, or will you step into the power of respectful, concise communication? The choice is yours. And I trust that you'll make the right one, not just for yourself, but for all those whose lives you touch. Because when we stop explaining and start respecting, we don't just change conversations, we change lives. We change the world, one interaction at a time. So, are you ready? Ready to stop explaining and start respecting? Ready to step into your power, to trust in yourself and others? Ready to be part of a revolution in communication, in relationships, in how we interact with the world? The journey starts now with your very next word. Make it count, make it clear, make it respect. The power changes in your hands. The world doesn't need more words, it needs more respect. With every interaction, you have a choice to explain or to elevate, to justify or to empower, to fill the air with noise or to create space for understanding. Imagine a ripple in a pond, starting small but growing ever larger. That's you choosing respect over explanation. It begins with a single conversation, a moment of pause before you speak, but it grows, touching every aspect of your life, inspiring others to follow suit. In a world drowning in information, be the beacon of clarity. In a society craving connection, be the bridge of understanding. In a culture of constant justification, be the pillar of quiet confidence. Remember, true strength isn't found in endless explanations, but in the courage to stand firm in your convictions while respecting others. It's not about having all the answers, but about fostering an environment where questions are welcomed and diversity of thought is celebrated. As you leave here today, carry this truth with you. Your worth isn't measured by the volume of your words, but by the impact of your presence. Your power lies not in convincing others, but in living with such authenticity that explanation becomes unnecessary. So, will you continue to explain your way through life? Or will you rise to the challenge of respectful, impactful communication? Will you contribute to the noise? Or will you be the refreshing silence that invites true understanding? The choice is yours, and it begins now. With your next word, your next interaction, your next decision, will you explain or will you respect? Will you justify or will you inspire? Will you talk or will you transform? The world is waiting. Your colleagues, your friends, your family, they're all watching, not for your explanations, but for your leadership, for your example of what it means to communicate with respect, to lead with clarity, to live with conviction. So step into your power, embrace the strength of brevity, the impact of respect, the transformation that comes when we stop explaining and start connecting. Be the change in every conversation. Be the respect in every interaction. Be the leader who doesn't need to explain their vision, but inspires others to see it for themselves. Your journey to a life of powerful, respectful communication starts now. The first step, simply close your mouth, open your heart, and let your actions speak louder than any explanation ever could. Are you ready to revolutionize your world one respectful interaction at a time? The stage is set. The spotlight is on you. What will your next move be? Remember, in the grand theater of life, it's not the longest monologue that gets the standing ovation. It's the performance that moves hearts, changes minds, and leaves the audience in awe-inspired silence. Be that performance. Be the respect this world so desperately needs. The curtain is rising. The audience is waiting. It's your moment to shine, not through endless explanation, but through the quiet power of respect. Will you seize it? Will you be the change? Will you stop explaining and start transforming? The choice is yours. The time is now. The world is watching. What will your story be?